What is up, guys? This is Matt with The Existential Man, and thank you for tuning in to episode 5. Today, we're going to talk a little bit shortly, because it's just me, and we're going to talk about relationships, and the most important relationship you have in your life, some things to focus on. So, guys, stay tuned, and we'll get into some of the important stuff here in just a moment. All right, guys, welcome back again. My name is Matt, host of The Existential Man, and thank you guys for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about a couple important things, but most importantly, we're going to talk about relationships and the one relationship that is most important in your life. So, if you were going to guess what that would be, what do you think would be? I'll tell you right now. Most important relationship you have in your life is the relationship with yourself. Okay. You have to learn to take care of you. You hear it said all the time. You have to learn to take care of you before you can take care of other people. And I've heard a couple different people say it a different way, but the relationship with yourself basically kind of sets the tone for your relationship with other people. So if you can't learn to love yourself, or you can't learn to take care of yourself, how good are you going to be to other people? So one of the things that I wanted to explore was in talking about our relationships with ourselves is, we look at these things. When you start to examine your relationship with yourself, people start to use the terms like self-awareness or self-esteem or um, confidence. And I don't like the word self-esteem, but I do like the word confidence. I do like the words assertiveness. But the easiest way to kind of research this is to look at statistics on um, self-esteem and what I've done because again, I am not. First of all, okay, let's backtrack here. We are here at the Existential Man. We are not anti-women, not by any means. I'm married. I have 3 daughters. I love my girls. I love my girls to death. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for them. There's nothing that I wouldn't hope for them in their lifetimes for what they want to accomplish. What my issue is has nothing to do with women. It has to do with where society is in terms of acknowledging the issues that are specifically to the male gender. Okay. And this brings me to back full circle to the whole self-esteem thing. If you search on Google and you say self-esteem statistics for teens, you'll see a lot of articles, a lot of websites that talk about self-esteem issues in girls, and there's countless books written to and for and about young girls, adolescent to teen age years regarding self-esteem. And I am not discounting the fact that that's probably an issue. Not being a female, I can't speak to that. My oldest daughter, who is long past her teenage years, never at least outwardly seemed to have a self-esteem issue. She was always very confident, and she was kind of like, if you don't like me, well, then piss off. Like, I don't care. You're going to like me for me, or you're not going to like me at all, and that's fine. Which I respect to the hell, and I love that about her. She is headstrong, which is, as a parent, sometimes frustrating, but that's beside the point. What my issue is when you look at the teen statistics for self-esteem, they talk about young women and their issues with self-esteem. And again, that's fine. But there's very, very few, if any, major resources or programs dedicated to helping self-esteem in young men, building self-esteem, confidence, teaching them that they are perfect just the way that they are. We've got the whole movement about the Dove Self-Esteem Project, the hashtag No Digital Distortion Pledge, standing up against unrealistic beauty standards and trying to get magazines and stuff like that to stop photoshopping pictures of women to make them look different than they actually look in real life. Eliminating cellulite and extra fat and slimming their body in certain places to make them more physically attractive on page. Okay, and I understand all that. I get all that. But what my issue is we're not talking about the issues that address young men. And this is why it's so important, and this is what I don't understand. Okay, if you look at the teen suicide rates from 2020 per 100,000 adolescents age 15 to 19, teen suicides for females was 5.2. Teen suicides for males was 3 times that. 3 times that. 16.7 males per 100,000 adolescents age 15 to 19 committed suicide in 2020. Okay. Among those most affected were American Indian and Alaskan natives and Caucasian males. Okay. So, and I'm not getting into gender. I just want you guys to know that, I'm using that information to show you that, like, I do have my research and it's right in front of me as I'm talking to you. But the population affected in thousands was 5.4 thousand for men versus 1.6 thousand for women. Or girls. Let me rephrase. Boys versus girls. Okay. And I'm not saying boys versus girls is one's better than the other. I just want you guys to have the facts. Okay. 16.7 per 100,000 adolescents. Not per 100,000 males, but per 100,000 adolescents. Okay. Ages 15 to 19 committed suicide in the United States in 2020 versus 5.2 female teen suicides. So it begs the question to me, at least, what is the problem? If all these websites and resources are telling me that it's women that are and young girls that are having the self-esteem problem, and you can go look. I mean, there's studies done by the American Psychological Association of all organizations. This is the one that analyzes this statistics and does these studies, and they do these tests on young boys and young girls, talking about self-esteem, and it's talking about talks about the confidence gap, the self-esteem gender gap. There is a study done. It was published in. It was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. All right. And it was done in, bear with me just a moment, 2018. Okay. So 3 years. It was 3 years old. But it was done, correction, 2015. So it's 6 years old. So it's a little bit older. Okay. But regardless. So these are things that, this has been a topic for many years, and the push to eliminate the digital distortion or the photoshopping, image alteration, let's say, of photos in magazines. And that's not just men's magazines, that's women's magazines too. Cosmopolitan, Time magazine. I think the first one that came out and said that they weren't going to do it was probably the Oprah magazine or whatever one she runs, because she's not for it. And I'm all, like I said, I'm all for it. Like, be real. Okay. Be real, be who you are. And if people don't love it, screw them. All right. But that being said, all this information is coming out and has been talked about for years, probably more than a decade at great length, and in with a lot of public awareness about the issue with self-esteem and young girls in school. And I am absolutely for addressing that. But if that's the case, if young girls are the ones that are suffering so badly when it comes to self-esteem, then why is it that the young men are taking their lives at such alarming rates by comparison? Think about that for a second. More than 3 times the amount of suicides for males, young males, adolescents aged, 15 to 17? 14 to 17? 3 times the amount of boys versus girls. That's something that needs to be addressed, folks. Like men, this is an issue that we need to address. Okay? This is a problem. How are we going to protect our sons? And I've got a 5-year-old boy. I love him to death. I do not want him to, like, I'm trying to do my best to teach him. He is perfect just the way he is. He's a little shit sometimes, and he gets on my nerves, and he's frustrating. But you know what? I love him more than anything. And I'm teaching him he is perfect just the way he is. I don't try to change him. So dads, what are we doing that's creating this problem? Or is it the boys whose dads aren't around? I don't know. Somebody help me out here. I want you guys to leave a comment or something. You guys can go to the show page. I podcast with Anchor. You guys can go to the show page. You can log on, create an account, or log on, and you can leave me a voice message and tell me what you think. What is the problem? What is it that we need to do? Because I'm at a loss here. I'm tired of watching our young men, the future of this country in terms of the male culture or men in general. Why are we sitting back and letting this happen? This should not be a thing. And so, when we talk about, and this ties into the relationship with yourself so closely, because you need to understand, men that are out there, you guys need to understand you're perfect just the way you are. I'm not saying you don't need to take the opportunity to get better. You absolutely do. But that is a personal responsibility. That's not on anybody else to tell you to do so. Okay? Nobody else can tell you where you feel where you need to improve. That's on you. If you think you need to get better as a husband, then get better as a husband. If you think you need to get better as a father, then get better as a father. But you got to take care of yourself to do that. Okay? You can't let your personal health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, you cannot let that shit go by the wayside, because you will fail yourself and you will fail your family. All right. So somebody tell me, I need to know what we need to do about this, because I'm willing to, I guess I'm willing to fall on my sword if I got to be the guy that starts screaming and shouting. I know there's a lot of other guys. Look, there's a bunch of other podcasts out there. There's a bunch of other people that are trying to bring awareness to some of these events or to some of these issues. And I was actually watching a video from Ryan Mickler of Order of Man. I love his podcast. I love his videos. Ryan, I'd love to talk to you someday if you're out there and you want to talk. I'd love to talk to you because I'm brand new in this, but you've done a lot of research and you've dealt with a lot of this kind of stuff. And I know that's, I've heard you talk about some of this is part of the reasons why you homeschool your kids. But anyways, Ryan Mickler was talking about it the other day where he's starting to get backlash because, major backlash. His videos aren't, his video views were on an upward trend and then sharply down spiral. Same thing with his podcast. Podcast subscribers were on a trending up, subscriptions, and all of a sudden a sharp downward turn. Makes me wonder, like, who's trying to silence us? And I realize that kind of sounds like a conspiracy theory. That's kind of sounds like some conspiracy theory shit right there. But if you are a parent of a boy, if you are a man or a woman and you are a parent of a boy, this shit should concern you. It genuinely should concern you. And it's, if it's not the statistics itself that are alarming, what should be as alarming is, why is nobody talking about this the way that they talk about trying to take care of young girls? Okay. Especially in this age of like equality matters and making sure that nobody is left behind and all the other shit that's come out in the last decade, No Child Left Behind and, Be Who You Are. And, the I guess, eliminating the gender references or adding of pronouns and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole nother topic of discussion that I'm not going to get into today. But, in this age of equality where we're being pushed as a society and really ought to be, finally, to be able to accept people for who they are and what they believe. And this is not a topic of discussion. Like, why is there such a drastic difference in suicide rates between young girls and young boys? And I kind of wonder if some of it has to do with the fact that by studies, boys in their adolescence and teen years tend to find themselves in more competitive, uh, I guess, environments, situations. I know that there's, generally speaking, there's probably more sports out there for boys, or at least more competitive opportunities out there for boys. Although I know that the trend in the last few years has been participation, participation, participation. But I personally disagree with that. Like, I don't think everybody should get a participation trophy, because life doesn't hand out participation trophies, and I don't think we're setting up our kids for success to teach them that, hey, you're going to win by just existing. No, you're going to win and succeed by doing what you have to do that within the means of moral and legal boundaries. Um, but the sad fact is that it doesn't really get better from there. Okay, so at age 15 through 17, or 14 through 19, or whatever that previous statistic was, it was just a little over 3 times, and it gets worse. As of 2019, the last statistics that I could find clearly, men were 3.63 times more likely to commit suicide. The highest rate of suicide is a middle-aged white male. White males accounted for 69.38% of the suicide deaths in 2019. All right. And firearms accounted for more than half of all the suicides. There's this little interesting thing down at the very bottom of this page that I found. And it says 93% of adults surveyed in the U.S. think suicide can be prevented. So if that's the general consensus, is that suicide can be prevented and we can take care of this problem, how do we take care of it? Right? Well, I don't know what the answer is, but what I do know is that those that, I don't know this. I can only assume, based on having felt in a position, I've been there before, guys. Like I've been there at points in my life where it's just like, is it better for the people around me to not have to deal with me anymore? Or would it be better for them for me to no longer be a burden? And it sucks. Like, that is a very, very dark place to go to. But I talk about it because I want to help you guys. I want to help you. And I really hope, if somebody out there is feeling a certain type of way, please reach out. Please reach out to me. Go to my Facebook page, The Existential Man. You can hit me up on the WhatsApp. Go to my Anchor page. You can go to any of my social medias, in Instagram or the Facebook, or I say the Facebook as if it's like I'm an old guy. No, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Facebook, hit me up on WhatsApp. Like, go to these social media sites, hit me up. Okay, I will talk to you. I've also got a bunch of resources for people that you can talk to that might be able to help you more than I can. And I'm being a veteran, I fully support veterans awareness, suicide awareness in Mission 22. So if you're a veteran, man, hit me up for sure, dude. I don't want to see you guys die. I don't want to see you guys go that route, man. Like, that shit sucks. I do not want to see any of my fellow brothers and sisters, former brothers and sisters in arms, meet that end. So please do not hesitate to reach out, guys. I want to be there for you. Okay. Let me help you. So, but that being said, I think one of the things that we can do as individuals is, number one, learn how to take care of ourselves and love ourselves. Build that strong relationship with yourself first. Men, you got to, like I've said this before and I will say it again, you got to take time to figure out what makes you tick. If you've spent your entire life, like a lot of us have, just going from task to task to task, because that's what we learn, then you've probably not taken a whole lot of time to sit back and do some serious, in-depth self-reflection and figure out what it is that actually makes you tick. So in order to do that, you need to cut out all the fucking noise. And I hate to say that, but you got to cut out all the noise, man. You got to learn how to scale back. Stop trying to kill the world, or stop trying to, take over the world tomorrow, because it ain't going to happen. You need to make a daily goal of sitting down and taking some time for yourself, be it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour. If you can carve out an hour, look, I'm recording this thing at midnight, okay? This is my time for me to do the things that I love to do. right? When the kids are asleep, I've put them to bed, say goodnight, did my hugs and kisses. I spent some time with my wife watching some of our TV shows on the couch. Right now we're kind of binge watching Power. I know we're behind the power curve, pun intended. But we are, we spend some time together, and I try to make sure that gets done because I want them to know that they are a priority. But I also have, part of the reason why I do stay up late is because that's my time for me. Okay, that's my time for me to do podcasting or to read, which I love reading. And I read about some really obscure shit. Like I read about some of the most random stuff. I picked up some books at the local Habitat for Humanity restore. We were in there looking for some other stuff a few weeks back, and they got this little bookshelf, and I saw some books on psychology, and I was like, hell yeah. I don't know why. I mean, like most people are like, why do I care about psychology? But for some reason, it interests me, and so I picked those up, and I've been kind of flipping through them and reading them. I've read a bunch of books. I think in the last probably 6 months to a year, I've read more books than. Well, let me rephrase that. I have consumed more books because I do a lot of audiobooks because it's easier for me. I got a long commute back and forth to work. Um, but I've consumed more audiobooks in the last probably 6 months to a year than I have the previous 5 years combined. So, but that being said, reading is a great way because you start to read those words on the page, and it kind of allows you to paint this picture in your mind. And you can read nonfiction, fiction. Fiction is kind of like my getaway. Nonfiction is like for me to increase those folds in my brain and make myself smarter, make me understand the world a little bit better, maybe understand a different perspective, especially if it's like an autobiography or something that somebody wrote from their own perspective. But anyways, take that time, guys. So, here tell you what, let's get into some of this, and I'll give you some tips on what things you can do. So, stay with me. All right. So let's go over some things you can do. All right, guys. So number one, I already told you, read. Read a book, man. Pick up something that you want to learn about. If you want to learn about how to be a good woodworker, pick up a book on woodworking. If you want to learn how to be a better father, pick up a book on how to interact with your kids in a different way. Go read websites, go read blogs. Hell, man, there's some funny blogs out there from dads just like me where the guy's talking to his, yeah, I mean, it's conversations with a 3-year-old. Like that shit is funny as fuck. Um, and then he does YouTube videos on top of that, and he acts like both kids. Um, for me, one of the things that I like to do, and this is, yeah, I mean, I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it because it's like mind numbingly stupid, but at the same time, I learn a lot. It's kind of this weird juxtaposition between what I gain from doing this. But I spend a lot of time after my wife and my kids go to sleep watching YouTube. I'll sit up and watch YouTube for like 2 or 3 hours, just video after video after video. But it's all shit that I want to learn about, like how to make my podcast better. How do I fix the sound, or how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm looking at doing maybe a couple live stream episodes or events where guests and people can actually call in or even join the show to ask questions or to maybe get some feedback from the audience or my listeners. Things that I want you guys to be involved in, and how to set those things up. So, like, for me is reading, watching YouTube, binging on a show with my wife. And I really get down with, I like doing creative things. So, graphic designing. I'm a self-taught graphic designer. I do not have a degree. I do not have a certificate, but I got bored one day and was like, you know what? I wonder if I can make this on a computer in a program. And then it just kind of grew from there. And that was probably over a decade ago. Same thing with websites. I started by building my dad's website for his business, well over a decade ago, and started with that process and have just kind of continued toying with it and learning and growing as I've gone along. I mean, it's like, for me, I like to absorb as much knowledge as I possibly can, but I've done the research on myself to know that that's what I like to do. And my wife, sometimes I'll tell her something that I'm reading, Or I'll tell her a video I'm watching and she just gives me that look like, what the fuck are you watching? And it's funny, but I also understand, like, my tastes are not going to be everybody's taste. Like, I look at things a little bit differently than she does. Obviously, we are two completely different people. So, like I said, number one, your very first step is you got to take some time, get rid of all the noise in your life, and figure it out. Figure out what it is that makes you click, that makes you tick. All right, what are the things that genuinely make you feel at peace and at ease? Once you do that, you start to take care of yourself. And as Stephen Covey says in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you start to sharpen that saw. The sharpen the saw is twofold. And that's why I do the whole, it's like, it's not just taking care of yourself and taking that downtime to kind of re-energize yourself and reinvigorate yourself. But it's also taking some of that time while you're doing that to make yourself better. And this is what we're all about, guys. So, and this is a lot of this is because I don't want to see you guys as statistics, right? We're not doing ourselves any favors by allowing this to continue. We're not doing our families and our loved ones, a favor by allowing this to continue. If you're a young single male, you're not doing your future spouse or your potential future kids a favor by not taking care of yourself now. Like, be the best version of yourself that you can be at any given point in your life, right? And I know that is a very lofty goal. It sounds like a lofty goal, but it's not really. Like, if you know when you go into any task or any day that you gave it your best shot, that there was nothing that you would have done differently, with all the factors considered that you knew at the time, hey, that's all you can do. You give it 100 and keep it moving. Like, it's too easy. So number one, I know I keep going off tangents. Number one, take time to sharpen the saw. Okay. Rest, relax, recuperate, reinvigorate yourself. And at the same time, figure out ways to make yourself a better version of you, whatever means that you feel that necessary. Number two, all right, take care of yourself physically. Okay. I'm not saying you can't have I'm not saying you got to eat a certain way. I'm not even saying you got to go work out, although I think it is a good idea. I personally don't do a whole lot of working out. I should. I know I should. But due to some medical issues and stuff like that, I'm very limited in what I physically can do without potentially putting myself in harm's way, or ripping the leads out of my spinal cord. I have a spinal cord nerve stimulator implant, so they're anchored in there with some titanium anchors, and they're sutured into the ligaments that run up and down my spinal column. Long story short, happened while I was in the military, and that's why I can't be in the military anymore. So, anyways, so there's a lot of exercises I can't do, and while they gave me a pretty exhaustive list on all the things that I can't do, they didn't really give me a clear list on what I could do. And so aside from I guess bench press and other things, curls, and I can do a lot of upper body stuff. Lower body stuff is most of it's pretty much out. I can't even do setups because it potentially puts my I guess back extension angle or flexion angle. I don't know. It puts it out of whack, and it could potentially tear the anchors out of my spinal cord or out of the ligaments. So it's not that I avoid it altogether. I'd find other ways to kind of get my movements in and stuff like that. But I wouldn't consider it traditionally working out. But yeah, take care of yourself physically, man. If you eat too much sugar, cut back on the sugar. If you eat too much fat, well, depending upon the kind of fat, you should probably cut back on it. For us men, animal fat is actually healthy for us in some moderation. You don't want to go overboard with it and just eat, a slab of the back fat off of a pig or whatever. But it actually helps increase free testosterone in the body. By many studies have shown that it is, at least can aid in that. Maybe not directly, but something to do with the hormones and stuff like that. I won't get into the science, but eat better. All right. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. And I know I just got done talking about me staying up until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning to record this podcast. But I do it for you guys and I do it for me. Like I said, part of this is my outlet. And I get enough sleep based on what my needs are. I do wish I got more. And I should probably focus on that a little bit more. So, like I said, we are all in this together, guys. I am working on myself just like you guys are working on you. And so, number one is take time to resharpen the saw. Number two is take care of your physical health. All right. Number three is going to be, take care of your personal relationships, because your personal relationships, those are kind of what sustain you when you are struggling. You know, I know I said you can't be good to anybody else until you're good for yourself. But when you start taking those efforts and those strides to take care of yourself, you'll probably notice a change in your interpersonal relationships. So especially if you're married and have kids, like your wife's going to notice, your kids are going to notice. They might wonder what's up initially. They might start asking a lot of questions, especially if you're tired or you're grumpy because you're tired. But, like I was when I was first got into doing all this and kind of starting exploring this as an option to help other guys like me out. But when you find out that this thing is actually part of what rejuvenates you and re-energizes you for the rest of what you've got to accomplish on a weekly, daily, or monthly basis, or whatever the case may be, you end up showing up better for them in the long run by taking care of the things that you need to do. But in the same token, it's not going to be, you start on this personal growth journey and making yourself better, you're going to stumble. You're going to have setbacks, and your family is going to be the one. The people in your life that you love and care for, and that love and care for you, they're going to be the ones that help kind of sustain you when you feel like you can't anymore. They're going to be the ones that help catch you when you fall. Number 4, build something. I'm not talking necessarily about, getting out some wood and your saws and nails and hand, build like a piece of furniture, but build something. It doesn't have to be furniture. Maybe you like to build websites. Build a freaking website. Start a blog. Maybe you like to take pictures. Start taking photographs and actually print them out and start building a physical collection of some of your photography. It's art, man. Like these are reflections of you. Start putting the reflections of you out into the world. Okay. Who cares what other people have to say? But if you have a gift, by God, you got to share that shit. Okay. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to love music. I still love music. I love music. I used to sing. I kind of taught myself how to play a little bit of piano, a little bit of guitar. Like I used to love to do that stuff. And unfortunately, bad habits and time and more importantly, probably than anything else, is I allowed the opinion of a very small-minded individual who happened to be one of my fraternity brothers, or in my fraternity at the time that I was going to college. I allowed his opinion of my desire to be a musician, which was extremely negative. I allowed that opinion to dictate how I felt about it. And I've never looked at it the same since. And I know that he was small-minded. I know that he was probably just being a fucking jealous asshole because he didn't have talent. He was a talentless hack. Let's put it that way. No, he was good at some stuff. I know he was. I mean, everybody's got something that they can bring to the world, but I mean, the fact that he would shit on what I wanted to do, and I allowed him to do that and affect how I viewed it. It pisses me off to this day because I lost out, or I didn't lose out. I just chose not to take advantage of some really good opportunities that I would have had, because I was too invested in other people's opinions of me at the time. So, number 1, take time to sharpen the saw. Number 2, what was number 2? Oh, take care of yourself physically. Number 3, take care of your interpersonal relationships. Number 4, build something. And number 5, rinse and repeat. This is not a one-time thing, guys. This is a continual process of growth, personal expansion, and making yourself the best version of yourself that you can making you the best man you can be. All right? We got to do better. We have to do better. As a collective, men have to do better. We have to do better for ourselves, most importantly. We have to do better for our kids and the next generation second. And part of that comes into doing better for our families, right? We got to show up and we got to give our boys and girls a great example of who we should be. We need to set the example for our boys of like, you know what? You have talents. Regardless of what your talents are, let that shit shine, okay? Let it shine, put it out there to the world. Screw people who got a negative opinion. They don't deserve to be a part of your life. Like I've said this before. I learned it from my dad, who probably learned it from a business seminar because my dad did a lot of that stuff. And like I've told you guys before, I've never met a man with a stronger work ethic than my father. My dad has I mean, he sacrificed it all for us. He probably sacrificed too much for us. In hindsight, I believe he sacrificed too much for us. I wish he was around more when I was a kid, but he did what he could, and he got to what he could. But he was there. And one interesting thing that I didn't tell you guys about my dad, and I think this ties into how we show up for our kids, for those of us that are fathers. My dad is not my biological father. I don't know my biological father. I just recently reconnected with my biological half sister a couple years ago. And the little bit of time that I've spent with Nicole, she's fabulous. I love her. But my dad, my biological father, he was never there. I won't get into the details about how it all went down, but um, due to relationship issues, my mother and him ended their relationship when I was 6 months old, and I never heard from him. He wasn't around. We lived in a different state. No birthday cards, no Christmas cards, no gifts, no hey, how you doing? No phone calls, nothing. And I can't fault him completely for that. He probably was not aware of the circumstances, or I'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't understand what his reasons were for it, and frankly, it's water under the bridge now. My dad, he stepped up in a huge way, and he wasn't perfect, but none of us are. He made a lot of mistakes, and I make a lot of mistakes as a dad. I make a lot of mistakes as a husband. But you know what? He showed up and he did what he could. He did what he thought was best for us and my mom. And beyond that, he made a conscious choice to do so. It's not like, oh, you know, mom and dad were having a good time. They went out with some friends and engaged in some extracurricular activities after getting home from the bar one night. And oops, all of a sudden we got a kid, 9 months later. No, we were already in the world. My brother and I were already in the world, and he loved my mom so much that he made a conscious choice to love us just the same. And so, the day that he and my mom got married, interestingly enough, he still calls me. I'm 37 years old. My dad will still call me and he'll say happy anniversary, because to my dad, the anniversary is not just with my mom. It was the day he became my dad. And I've never told him this, but I actually find that, even though it's kind of cheesy and corny, I actually kind of find it a little bit special. And it's one of those things that I love about him, because he does view it as an important step. And when I married my wife, when I married Lisa, she had kids from a previous marriage, and I looked at it the same way. When and her and I have had this conversation. When I was dating her, I was friends with the kids. I'd sit there and have conversations. I'd play video games, or I'd mess around with them or whatever. But when her and I got married, my role changed. And I no longer was able to be a friend because I had to be a parent. And so as a dad, the things that are going on in the world today with regard to young men and the lack of care for what they deal with potentially when in terms of gender specific or sex specific issues, however we're supposed to term it now. um, any parent should be scared, and it should be a problem for them. I don't want my kids to believe that this is acceptable. I want my daughter to understand what a good man should be. And I'm not saying that I'm a great example of a good man. I hope to God I am. I damn sure try to be. I think the worst thing that most people could probably say about me right now is I smoke and I got a potty mouth. That's it. I don't drink. I don't gamble. I do not engage in extramarital affairs. I don't do any of that nonsense. Um, you know, but and I'm not saying that drinking and gambling are nonsense. Is sometimes that's it's a means of recreation. Um, but all the other stuff, like I just those are my two. That's my vice is smoking cigarettes, and I got a potty mouth. I'm from the military. What do you want? Like that's it. Kind of comes with the territory for most people. But I want my daughter to understand what a good man is supposed to be, and I try to be that for her. I do have really high expectations of my kids because, and I hope that that doesn't create an environment where they feel like they're never measuring up because they do all the time. They always do. I love my kids unconditionally, but I also want them to understand. And the reason I have high standards for my kids is because I want them to understand that the world does not owe them anything. They're not going to get a handout just because they exist. And I think parents that teach their kids that they're going to get a handout or they're going to get a participation trophy, I think they're teaching them the wrong lesson. You can disagree with me, and I respect your opinion to disagree with me. I just don't believe that for me. I cannot teach my kids that just showing up makes it all okay. No, you got to show up and you got to put up. All right. Because that's how the fucking world works. Like, let's be real. That's how the world works. You don't get paid for just showing up at your job. I don't know any person that gets paid for just showing up at their job. They actually have to do something productive while they're there. That's how you get paid. Now, you might get paid, you might get away with it for some period of time. You might get away with just showing up at your job and sitting there playing on your phone or playing on YouTube or whatever. Fucking around, chatting with the person next to you in the cubicle next to you. I don't know. I don't know what people do. I work a kind of a unique job. There's not a ton of us out there that do this kind of stuff, although it is a growing trend. But I do physical labor a lot of days. There are days where I can work from home, but for the most part, I do physical labor as my job. And I know that I have performance reviews every year. Actually, it's every 6 months. And so I have to basically justify my existence. I understand that there are jobs out there that may not be like that. So if you get paid for just showing up at work, kudos to you, but that's not how the majority of jobs work. That's not how the majority of careers work. And I tell you what, if you want to be an entrepreneur, shit. Unless you have lots of money where you can pay other people to do the work for you, you will be doing the majority of the work yourself, regardless of whether you're the business owner or not. Everybody's got to start from the bottom. You got to build the business, right? So that's not even really an answer. Entrepreneurship is hard work. I watched my parents go through it. I understand. I've done it myself. I understand. It is hard work. I'm trying to do it myself while holding down a full-time job. So that shit ain't easy. So I don't want my kids to get used to that. But as a parent, we are responsible for molding our children into who they're going to be. But part of that is making them understand on a very, very cellular level that there's nothing inherently wrong with them. However they are and however they show up to the world, as long as they're not straight up assholes, that's okay. If, today, perfect example, and I boo-booed on this. We were getting ready to leave the house. My son's wearing a t-shirt from his school. Cool. I can respect that. But then he was wearing some really, really short shorts to the point where you could not see that he was wearing shorts underneath this long ass t-shirt. And I made him go change. And he got really upset about it. And I said, and then I yelled at him because I told him to go change and he didn't change. He didn't listen. He just kind of moseyed on about and just kind of acted like I didn't say anything. And then I got on his ass. It's like, you're gonna listen to me, boy. Like, I know you're starting to kind of test a little bit to see where you fall in this hierarchy here, but I'm still the boss. I'm still the king in this household, and you'll do as you're told. But when I do that kind of stuff, I try to go the extra mile after the fact. Give it a little bit of time for them to do what they got to do, let it sink in, and then after things are calm, I try to take my kids to the side and I explain to them, this is why I am the way that I am. Nobody's going to cut you a break, and the world is not easy. The world is not fair, and the world is not going to just give you because you exist. Like, the world is cruel. People are mean. People are judgmental. They will look at you and tell you things, and hopefully you have enough people that respect you to tell you what they think to your face. But more likely than not, you're going to find people that are going to tell you one thing to your face and talk shit about you behind your back. I don't say it exactly like that, but it's like we all, those of you that are like full grown adults and have dealt with some of this stuff firsthand in your life, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So getting back to the whole teen suicide, male teen self-esteem issues, whether it's acknowledged or unacknowledged, whether we address it or don't address it, it's not a problem that's going to be fixed. Unfortunately, God, I wish we could just flip a switch and it would all stop. Both sides. I wish it would just all stop, because God knows we need our children. Okay. We need our children. We got to protect those little buggers. We made them. We got to love them. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that it's not going to be fixed tomorrow. It's not going to be fixed today. But I think over time, if we as fathers can, and I'm not saying mothers can't do this, but we have a unique position in our children's lives, dads, men in general. If you know of a young girl or a young boy that doesn't have a father figure in their life, and you've got the time, by God, share it, please share it. There are countless studies, and I'm talking like legitimate studies, American Psychological Association, you name it, Department of Health and Human Services from multiple states about the importance of male role models in children's lives for proper development. Okay. If you know somebody that doesn't have a strong male figure in their lives, be that person if you got the time. But if you got kids of your own, don't sacrifice your kids for somebody else. Be there for your kids first, and then take on what you can after the fact. And that's one of the things that, we talked with Charles Matthews last week. That's one of the things that I loved about talking with him, was he did that for hundreds, if not thousands, of boys in his area in Arizona with the Boys to Men project. And it's a great organization to try and get involved with if you can and if you got the time. But look, we got to start showing up better. And part of that is relationship with ourselves. I know I kind of went off on a tangent talking about some of the other things, but it really all does tie together, guys. Like, we got to kind of figure out how we got to navigate this differently, because what we've been doing isn't working. Okay? What we've been doing isn't working. So we've got to figure something else out. All right? We got to do it differently. So I don't know what else to say besides that. So let's go over some other things. Let's go back towards the 5 steps, or the 5 things that I would recommend that you do, or 5 ideas of things that you can do. Number 1, take time to sharpen the saw, resharpen the saw. Okay. And that includes reflection on yourself. Okay. You got to take time for you to figure out what makes you click, what makes you tick, so that you can do the things in the following steps that make you better. All right. Number 2, take care of yourself physically. If that means eating better, or taking multivitamins, or going to the doctor more frequently, working out, stop eating crap, stop smoking, in my case, and getting more sleep. Like, those are things that you got to do. Number 3, take care of your interpersonal relationships, your family, your wife, your kids, your parents. Those are the people that you're going to lean on when you can't, when you can't. anymore. And we all get in those times where we hit these ruts and shit just doesn't go the right way, and we need a little bit of extra support, a little bit of extra love, a little bit of reassurance that the direction we're going in is the right direction, or maybe a redirection if the direction we're going in is a wrong direction. Okay. Number 4, build something. Build something from scratch. Be it a website, be it I know a guy here locally. He loves building custom Christmas lights. Like, those big fancy shows. Like, that's what he does. He does it as a hobby. And he's awesome. That shit is badass. If you've ever seen a really good show, that shit is badass. And this dude is smart. He is so fucking smart. It sounds kind of nerdy, but it is cool as shit. And I understand the electrical side of it. And he is really, really good at it. It takes a lot of knowledge to do the programming and the wiring and make it all work correctly. Those guys are very, very smart. And number 5, rinse and repeat. This is not a one-time thing. You're not doing this once. This is going to be a continual process. Okay. You get to a point in your life when you hit a plateau, it's time to resharpen the saw. Time to take some time to figure out who the new you, or what makes the new you tick. All right. And then find out, keep reading, keep growing, keep building things, keep making your life better, and keep becoming the best version of you that you can. All right. So guys, I'm going to sign off with that. I really hope that I've helped. And kind of a personal attestation, or I guess a personal public service announcement. If you guys are thinking about hurting yourself, or you're not sure what you want, if you're not sure what you can do, or what you want, where you want to go, like, look, man, call somebody. People love you. People care about you. People want to help you. You are not worthless. You are very, very worthwhile. You are worth something to somebody. Be that your mom, your dad, your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. This is boys and girls alike, right? If we're going to set an example for the kids like we talked about, and we're going to become the best versions of ourselves that we possibly can be, and we're going to talk about starting that at home with ourselves, building the best relationship with ourselves that we possibly can, call somebody. Lean on those crutches until you can do it yourself. Guys, I love you. Take care of yourself, and we will catch you on the next one. And just on a side note, if you are having trouble and you need somebody to talk to cope with an issue that you've got going on, and you think you might be contemplating hurting yourself, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255. Thanks for tuning in to The Existential Man, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.